Good day and welcome back. We are busy with our weather studies in geography. We're learning about the different elements of weather. So in our previous video, we learned about temperature and how to measure temperature and how to read the thermometers. In this video today, we're going to learn about rainfall. So rainfall. Namibia, we all know that Namibia is a very dry country. But rain forms when water evaporates and becomes a gas known as water vapor. This water vapor must be cooled in order for it to condense. This usually happens when the water vapor is lifted high into the atmosphere, and then the water vapor must condense into tiny particles of dust, soot, or salt found in the upper air. These are known as condensation nuclei. When the tiny droplets come together, they form clouds. Then enough water droplets combine, they become too heavy to remain in the air and fall as rain, hail, or snow. This entire process is known as the water cycle or the hydrological cycle. We can understand this as the water cycle. So again, the sun heats up the water on the earth, whether it's in the plants, whether it's on a lake or a river, or even the ocean. That happens on very hot days. The water vapor rises up, so it's not steam. That's why we don't see it rising. The water vapor is smaller. Particles of vapor are smaller than steam. Okay, so it rises up into the air. The cool air of the atmosphere cools down the water vapor, causing them to create more or larger droplets as the droplets combine together, and that's how we find clouds. Now, whether these clouds are rainy clouds or normal clouds, they will still have water droplets in them. Now, as these water droplets combine into bigger and larger clouds, they will become raining clouds. That's why you have the grayish color. There's a lot of water in those clouds, and you'll also see that they are also closer to Earth, closer to the surface of the Earth. So they become very heavy. And depending on the temperature, it will become rain, snow, or hail. Now, from the condensation part, condense means bringing together. So if you remember the word condense, you'll remember that the water vapor comes together. Okay, it becomes precipitation. Precipitation is actually the rain or the snow or the hail coming down to earth. Water coming down to earth is precipitation. Remember, you are perspiring when you're sweating. Precipitation is the water that's forming or that's coming down to earth. Then we have collection sites, we have underground water, we have rivers, we have waterfalls, we have oceans. Those are all collection areas. And then the cycle starts again with evaporation. That's why it's a circle. So it's always evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. Then again, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. Now let's look at the words that we need to remember. Evaporation is when water changes to water vapor. Condensation is when water vapor changes to water droplets. And the dew point temperature is the temperature at which condensation begins. So the temperature that you have here, only when it reaches dew point temperature, that is when clouds start to form. Okay, so let's look at a few definitions. Namibia receives rain during the summer months. It can come in storms or a drizzle. Most of the moisture that causes rain in Namibia is from the Pacific Ocean. The north of Namibia gets the most rain and the south gets the least. Remember, we have a kind of a rainforest in the north of Namibia with all the forests that we have there. So that's why it gets more rain. Now, how do we measure rainfall? We use rainfall gauges or rain gauges. This one we normally see on the farm. This one we normally see in our gardens. And this one is one that we can make ourselves. All of these are accurate as long as the measurements in between stays the same. Okay, and we measure it in centimeters. So it can be placed on the ground or it can be placed in a high on a pole, but it should not be around any trees or under a roof, because then that will change the measurement and will not give you an accurate measurement. Okay, so let's look at how we read our rain gauges. So first of all, we see that this makes a small bowl. And where do you read? Do you read from the top of that bowl or the bottom of that bowl? You call that a meniscus, right? You measure it at the bottom of that meniscus. That's where you measure it. Okay, so that you can see, this is 3 centimeters of rain that this person got. Okay, then on this side, again, we read at the bottom of the meniscus, which means this is about 11 centimeters of rain. You can see with the measurements that this is a centimeter measurement, that is the inch measurement. Okay, now with this one we have a 1.15 centimeter rain. Again, this is the garden one. This one we also use in the garden, but not that much. And this one we normally use in the farm. Okay, so our next topic that we're going to talk about is humidity. See you in the next video.